You're listening to LeaderCast, episode 180. What if the most courageous thing that you can do as a leader is identify some time to take off? What if the most courageous thing that you can do as a leader is develop healthy rhythms so that you get the rest that you need at night? What if the most courageous thing that you can do as a leader is identify what brings you joy and how you best relax and what play looks like for you? Welcome to LeaderCast, Transforming Missions podcast with Tim Bias and Sara Thomas, providing you with insights and resources you need to lead a movement of Jesus followers. Today we're having a conversation about rest, relaxation, and play. So Tim, why are we talking about rest, relaxation, and play?
Well, Sarah, a quick answer to that is that one aspect of Courageous Leaders, and for June and July, we're focusing upon rest, relaxation, and play. Now, what we've learned is, as we've asked the question, what do leaders need to know and understand and to do? We've discovered that leaders need rest, relaxation, and play, and that's not always the things that come to the top of our priority list. I think if we're honest, these are the things that not only aren't close to the top of our priority list, but may not be on our list at all. So it gets pushed down or forgotten. So rest, relaxation, and play are essential for our overall well-being. And I think that we're going to have some fun talking about this, and mainly because it's not something all of us know a whole lot about.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about 3 reasons we object to making time and following through on rest, relaxation, and play. I think we all like the idea of rest, relaxation, and play. Many of us just stink at doing it. And I say that because, since the beginning of the year, we've been having conversations with different leaders, and we've been asking them for their wisdom on rest, relaxation, and play. And to the last person, every single one of them said, I'm not good at this. And so part of our invitation for these 2 months is not to beat yourself up if you're not doing this well, but instead experiment and take this as an invitation to experiment with what might it look like to rest, relax, and play. So, Tim, coming in at reason number 3 that we object to making time for following through on rest, relaxation, and play is what?
You got your drum roll?
Wait, I think I do.
Okay, coming in at number 3 is, who's going to, and you fill in the blank. That's the first objection that we hear. Who's going to preach? Who's going to lead the meeting? Visit the sick? I mean, honestly, what we end up doing is it's just easier for me to do it. So why do I have to get somebody else to do it? It's more relaxing for me if I just go ahead and do it instead of trying to work to get somebody else to do it.
Yeah, and so on this one, what's behind this, I think, is that we put ourselves at the center of all activity. That I'm the only one that can. I'm the only one that can preach. I'm the only one that can visit the sick. I'm the only one that can handle the phone calls. I'm the only one that is available to cook, clean, do the laundry, mow the grass. Who is going to do all of these things? And so maybe something to think about is there a system set up for other people to do those things? Have you equipped people? Because the week before you're going on vacation is not the time to say, well, nobody else can preach. What would happen if over the course of the next 3 months, you identified a couple of people who have an interest, who have a passion, and you sat down with them so that when you took some time off in the fall, you could call on one of them. So if we're the only, now hear me, there are some things that in all of our lives, only we can do. If only your name is on the bank account, you're the only one that can go and get money out of the bank. Don't play this out to the point that you're making excuses for the excuses, because we're talking about this in the life of Christian leaders.
And if you're answering the question the way we're talking right now, it should be a revelation to you that there's some changes that could be made that might be healthy changes for you.
Yeah. So before we go too far, let me remind you that you can find show notes for this episode at transformingmission.org/podcast, or to go directly to this episode, you can go to transformingmission.org/180. So what's the second objection that we might not give voice to, but it happens in our attitude and in our mindset?
Well, that's been a big one for me in times past, saying things like, I want to, but, or I need to, but.
So this is the excuse objection. These are the moments that we don't think that we can because of expectations of others. And so we're making excuses for why we can't take time off, why we can't relax. And the question that I would ask on this one is, have you had a conversation about those expectations? Does it really have to happen by the end of next week? Maybe the answer is yes, but maybe the answer is no. And unless you have conversations about the expectations that you have in your head, nobody's going to know that you're even thinking that. So when you say, well, I can't go on vacation because they're expecting me to, or I want to go on vacation, but here's one, and I'm totally picking on Tim, and he knows what this is going to be, I bet. I want to go on vacation next week, but I'm not sure I'm going to get Tim's blog post in time. Now, for those of you listening, I've told Tim that at the time of this recording, as of noon tomorrow, I'm on vacation. So if I don't get it in enough time, then we're going to have a conversation about how it's going to get posted. You see what I'm getting at, that I'm not going to not go on vacation simply because someone else has a task for me to do. We've had the conversation, and I fully expect that Tim will get me the blog post. The big part of this one is the excuse making. They're waiting for me to, I should have, I have to. So if you find yourself saying those things, then back up, and who are the people that you need to have conversations with about the expectations?
So another way to say this, Sara, is that rest and relaxation is really under your control, and you can't say somebody else controls it for you.
I would say yes.
I'm not going to let you blame me for your vacation.
I think what happens, though, is we point fingers at other people because we haven't been clear about expectations and we haven't been clear about boundaries. And so we take on things that we don't need to take on. Being silly, and Tim and I joke about this all the time. That's why I'm talking about the blog post. I mean, every week you all receive a blog post. Every week he gets me a blog post. So it happens, but the part that you don't hear and see is he starts telling me on Friday that I'll have a blog post that afternoon. And it's usually on Monday afternoon, which is absolutely fine. But if we never had that conversation, and I'm heading out on vacation, and yes, Tim may know that I'm going on vacation. I would hope that he would know that I'm going on vacation, but he might not be thinking about, oh, wait, Sara needs this beforehand. So last week we had a conversation. Hey, I'm taking some time off. And so when we don't have those conversations, I think it's really easy for us to point fingers because we haven't taken the personal responsibility to have the conversation that's really needed.
So there's some boundaries and parameters, and it's really taking, I just want to taking responsibility for our own rest and relaxation. Even with the expectations, if we have to take some responsibility to make sure those expectations are there and are realistic.
Right. And so here's an example where the expectations and taking personal responsibility make it kind of muddy. I had this conversation with a pastor this week, so that's why I'm thinking of it. They were preparing to go on vacation. Someone in their congregation has died, and the funeral is the day that they were supposed to be leaving. So they're doing the funeral and then leaving for vacation. They didn't say, no, I'm not doing the funeral because I need to go on vacation. They're doing the funeral and then leaving for vacation. So sometimes, yes, we need to adjust it, especially when we're in roles that are dealing with people. But if every time you have planned a vacation, someone says they need you for something, well, we're going to have a finance meeting next week, and we'd really like for you to be there. I've planned this vacation. The first question I would ask is, have you communicated that you're going to be on vacation? And if you have, then can we meet the following week? What's so urgent that it needs to happen that week? I mean, most things just really, funerals are the only thing that I can think of that may have some time constraints around them that you need to flex and bend a little bit.
Because we don't live isolated lives, if we're not clear about expectations, our own as well as negotiated expectations with people around us, the people with whom we're in relationship pay the price for our lack of planning or setting those boundaries or parameters. So it's not just us. I mean, it doesn't affect me if I'm not good at rest and relaxation. It affects my family. It affects the people with whom I work.
Right.
And it may show up in other ways. So when we're talking about rest, relaxation, and play, this is not an individualistic characteristic. It's still lived out in relationship in the work that we do in helping people love one another. Hey, you got to love yourself too.
Right. And I think we're going to get at part of what you alluded to in the number one objection or reason we don't embrace rest, relaxation, and play. In the United States, we live in a culture of productivity. And often that gets played out by what we produce is what gives us our worth. Now, I'm not ascribing to that, and I'm not asking you to ascribe to that. I'm just stating the reality that we live in and the mindset that we live in. So to illustrate this, let me give you a personal example. And this comes from my Clifton strengths. My number 2 Clifton strength is achiever. When Gallup takes I don't know how many people now have taken Clifton strengths and separates them out by different countries, for the United States, achiever is number 1. That is what comes out at the top of all of the U.S. Clifton strength assessments. That talent is about drive, and it's about getting things done. It's about working long hours. It's about checking things off a list. And I distinctly remember a wise leader saying to me, "Hey, Sara, what if rest is something for you to achieve?" And my thought was, are you nuts? How do you achieve rest? And I'm a bit embarrassed to say it took me a little longer than it should have to really understand what what he was getting at. But when it hit me, my work life, notice there was only one thing that I said there, work life, was not enhancing my life or my faith. In many ways, it was slowly undoing it. And so I had to find a new rhythm. And again, it took me longer than I wish it would have, because at that point in my life, not only could I not sit still, I didn't know how to pause. I didn't know how to rest. I didn't know how to stop. I had two modes, go and go. And I worked insanely long days to accomplish everything on my to-do list. And when my head hit the pillow at night, I immediately fell asleep because I was exhausted. And when I think about that in the context of faith, it was as if I didn't have faith, because I was playing God. I had to be in control. I had to get stuff done. And that was what was going to prove my worth and my value to other people. No. But isn't that what happens when we think we can do it all, care for it all, manage it all, even with a little sleep or no vacation? So the way that I think about it is, unless you're a parent of a child or children under the age of 4, your challenge is with rest, relaxation. I'm not going to include play in that, because kids under 4, you've got plenty of play going on in your world. It just might not be what you're thinking of. The challenges of rest, relaxation, and play are likely going to be self-imposed or seeking to fit in to the dominant culture that we are a part of. So could it be that one of the most courageous actions that leaders can take is to focus on rest, relaxation, and play? I think it is. And Tim, you've already alluded to this, that when we are not rested, when we are not finding those moments of relaxation and play, we're not good parents, we're not good partners, we're not good coworkers, we're not good leaders, we're not good pastors, the list goes on, because we're not at our best.
Yeah, lots of times, Sara, it shows up as, we may articulate it as, well, I'm just tired. I don't think anyone's just tired. What happens when you get tired? Well, your temperament's different. Or we might say your temper is short. Your relationships are different. People that you, and we all know this, so I'm not saying anything that's out of line. There are some people that are more difficult to love than others. And if you're tired, those people can push your switch pretty quickly.
Right.
And it's not their fault. It's because you've not taken care of yourself to the place of the rest and the relaxation that you might need. Now, this isn't a blame and shame thing. It's just naming reality so that we can make the decisions we need to make to be the people God created us to be.
Yeah, I think we've already given you a lot of reasons, but let me give you a few pieces of data. In 2014, the CDC reported that 35% of adults get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, for our African American brothers and sisters and for multiracial individuals, that number jumps. For our African American brothers and sisters, it jumps to 45.8%. Don't get the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And for multiracial individuals, it's 44.3. Now, you heard me kind of chuckle there because Tim raised his hand when I said 35% don't get the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, here's the problem. People who didn't get the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night were also more likely to experience a heart attack, coronary heart disease, stroke, asthma, COPD, cancer, arthritis, depression, and diabetes. Do you hear how important sleep is to our overall health and well-being? Now, this was one that my jaw dropped on. In 2019, only 23% of employees took all the time off that they were entitled to. 9% took no paid time off. So I guess the good news there is most people took some time off, but the reality is every year U.S. workers earn more vacation days than they actually used. Are you ready for this staggering amount of lost benefits? It's the equivalent of $65.5 billion in lost benefits.
Sarah, what I'm going to say, it sounds like I'm just being negative through this. It is not a compliment or a positive achievement for any of us to say, I didn't take all of my vacation last year.
Right. And I think in American culture, we have viewed that as a badge of honor. And so I think what you're hearing Tim and I invite you to pause and think about is turn that around. When I read the statistics that in 2019, U.S. employees forfeited on average about half of their paid time off, the thought that ran through my mind was just because people are taking time off doesn't mean you're going to rest or relax. I know plenty of people that take time off, for example, to go to a doctor's appointment or to visit a sick parent or to care for something with their house. Yeah. So just because we're taking time off doesn't mean that that's always taking time off for rest and relaxation. And this hit a little too close to home because as we were preparing this, when this episode drops, I'll be taking some time off from work. And as I normally do and already alluded to, I make lists. And so I have an entire page of things to do on my few days off. And I think if you could see my list of things to do while I'm off, the only thing on there that might qualify as rest or relaxation is don't set an alarm all week. So yes, I'm going to be taking a second look at my list because why take time off if I'm just going to be exhausted at the end of it? So when people talk about going on vacation and they'll go places, wonderful places like Walt Disney World or going, places that are touristy, I'm like, that's not a vacation. Because you end up coming back from those more exhausted than you left. What's a vacation to me? Give me my Kindle or a book and a beach and let me sit and have somebody else prepare my food that I'm going to go buy. That's vacation to me. That's not what I'm doing next week. I'm not going anywhere, but it will be a different rhythm. I share that example to say sometimes what we set out to do and what is the best thing for us to do, we have to stop and ask ourselves what really needs to happen here. I probably don't need to clean my carpets, clean my closet, take things to Goodwill, clean my garage out, and reorganize my home office all while I'm off. Like, really? No.
Sarah, that sounds like work to me. I think one of the things that we want to say, and it's a characteristic of what leaders need to know and understand, is that vacation time off, rest, relaxation, isn't something to be checked off to say, well, I've taken my vacation now. It really becomes, as you've already said, a rhythm in our lives. It becomes part of who we are. So it becomes built into the way we live. So it's not always, oh, tomorrow I've got a day off. It may be that what it is that that's a time that really helps you set a balance for your life in a different way. And that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and I remember a time that, people being leaders in the church would throw, well, remember, God created things in 6 days, and on the seventh day you rested. If it's good enough for God, why isn't it good enough for you? And I was so far down the road of work, workaholism, call it whatever you want to call it, that I couldn't even see a way that was going to be realistic. And so if you're in that place, just ask yourself, what's one small thing that I can do? Maybe can you have a conversation with someone about negotiating expectations? Part of my expectation is I want to be able to take my time off. And here's what's going to need to happen for that to be so. I need you to help me hold myself accountable to that. Go ahead. That's a small step that will end up helping you create that rhythm that Tim is pointing to. That when we begin to put things in place that renegotiate those boundaries, then we can begin to step in and say, oh, why am I doing that? Why am I at a church meeting every single night, every week? Is this the only way that this can happen? Do I need to be at all of those meetings? I can't answer those questions for you. I can only ask them. But what I've witnessed is most of the time the answer is no.
Sara, you said something that resonated with me, and that is having somebody come alongside you to help you keep what you're saying you need to do. And I'm not doing this for me, but I do need to redeem myself since you've put me in the place of the blog, is that when you told me that you were taking that time off, I think I texted you and said, I'll hold you to it.
You did. And you said, I'm going to hold you to no work that week. And I know you will.
I do take it seriously that when you say, I'm taking this time off, that I'm not, I'm as good as you are. So I look good because you do a lot of work. And if you're going to take the time off, I'm not going to be saying, Sara, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. I'm saying to you, I'll hold you to that. It's really me saying, I will honor that for you. That right. I'll not be taking advantage of it.
And so I think what you're pointing to, Tim, is respect. That when people say, I'm taking time off, and again, this might be something that you need to have a conversation about. If someone dies, yes, send me a text message. Let me know if there's something that I need to do. Again, probably the only thing that needs to interrupt what is happening. And sometimes we're places that you can't get a phone call. That respect gets developed through building relationships. And so build the relationships with people. Yes, put on your email an autoresponder. I'm out of the office. Change your voicemail if that's what you need to do, so that people know when they can expect to hear back from you. Those sound like basic things, but when we don't do that and then we're starting to check email and we're going, I'm not responding to this now, and people haven't heard back from you and they have no idea that you're not in the office, it's not helpful to them or to you.
Well, Sara, I know there's lots more that we could talk about, but let's let people know what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so for the next couple of months, over June and July, we're inviting you, if you haven't picked up on it, to be intentional about rest, relaxation, and play. And we're going to seek to model rest, relaxation, and play. The podcasts are going to continue every week, but they won't always be a conversation between the two of us or with a guest. Some weeks there'll be short podcasts inviting you to rest, relax, and play. We'll give you some tools or prompts to consider, things that you might do that week. Yeah, we also have conversations lined up that we're super excited about. Next week, look forward to a conversation with Amy Burgess, who has the privilege of teaching and producing, along with bringing a major league mascot, Rosie Red, for the Cincinnati Reds to life. And in July, we have a conversation set up around how parents with young kids experience rest. Those two conversations are going to help you reconsider what rest, relaxation, and play might look like. So last thing that I want to invite you to consider for this podcast is, what did 2020 teach you about rest, relaxation, and play? Perhaps we learned something in 2020, our inability to travel, more time at home, and more people at home at the same time, leading to more puzzle sales, more board games, more Netflix binging, you name it. Think about how your rhythms of life shifted. And when I think about 2020, what I heard over and over again from people was, gosh, it was nice to sit down for a meal together. We haven't done that in a long time. It was nice to not have to rush out the door. It was nice not to have to go. It was fun just to play a game as a family. So maybe you'll block off or schedule some times for relaxation and play. And I would say if this is something that's hard for you, yeah, schedule it. Because what's on your schedule is what's going to get done.
Sara, I'll jump in here just for a moment and say something that you have said over and over, and that is we can't really tell people how to rest or relax. So we're not trying to tell you how to do that. And because what's rest for one person is not rest for someone else. And I can give you an example of that. My idea of camping is the Holiday Inn. So those of you who love camping, that's a lot of work for me. And I said that somewhat facetiously. I don't mean that to be dismissive, but my son owns a very large camper, and his family go camping, and they have to do all kinds of work in preparation, and they have to do work after it comes back home, and they have to do all this stuff. To me, seems like stuff that I don't want to do. But for them, that's fun. That's rest. It's relaxation. I am so glad they don't invite me to go with them. As much as I love them, I'll wait for them to come home and it gets the thing cleaned out, and then I'll go visit them. What some people see as fun and rest and relaxation, to others, it's not.
So, Tim, I think that is a good place for us to turn our attention to the write it down or talk it out questions for this episode. And it's pretty simple. How do you rest? That's the first question. What do you find relaxing is the second question. And the third one is, what is fun or play for you? You might have some conversations with the people that you live with and the people that you love. And maybe after you listen to this podcast, you'll go sit on your porch or on your patio or simply be. Or maybe you'll not set an alarm one day this week or go to bed early. Maybe the rest you need is from self-imposed expectations. As Tim said, we can't tell you what rest and relaxation look like. But what we do know is whether you serve in the local church, work in a corporate office setting, earn an hourly wage, we invite you to pause for rest and play this summer. And not just this summer, but consider the boundaries of your work, family, and rest as a way of life and a rhythm. Any last words, Tim?
Sara, I'm learning a lot about myself as I come to the later years of my life. And one of the things that I've learned, I think I've told you this, and sometimes I do it in fun, is that when I rest or when I relax, I don't do anything. And what you've reminded me of is, yes, you're doing something, you're intentionally involved in something. And so I began to make a list of what I do for rest and relaxation. And I found out that there are things that bring great joy in my life in terms of some relationships and what I do that really energize me and help me with that rest and relaxation. What I'm saying is I took an inventory. On the surface, I didn't think I did a whole lot. Underneath, I'm just going to say it this way. Because I'm surrounded by people who care about me, I'm in a healthy place. So that's what the point of this focus upon rest, relaxation, and play is all about.
Yeah, so as a reminder, you can find the show notes and those questions to help you take an inventory at transformingmission.org/180. And remember, who you are is how you lead. Bye for now.